Master Duel's ban list parameters are as follows. Place restrictions on cards and combos that drastically reduce the variety of duel strategies, create one-sided advantages for players, dominate the current meta, interfere with duel progression, and deem problematic for use in events and other things. With this in mind, I have created a Master Duel ban list that I believe will create a healthier game state and also promote more variety and fair play. Let's get into it. For our first ban, we have Eva. Drytron is considered to be the second best deck in Master Duel right now, and it's for a very good reason. With Herald of Ultimateness, you're able to just continuously negate stuff over and over and over again, and Eva giving you 2 extra fairies to discard, it's 2 extra negates. It creates an annoying game state and honestly just a one-turn game essentially. It's a borderline FTK, and I think it should definitely be banned. Drytron can still play without Eva, but it becomes much more difficult and honestly fair. The True King of All Calamities and Rongo Miniad banned. Both of these cards serve the exact same purpose, which is just to shut the game off and prevent you from being able to take your turn. They are incredibly accessible in their own respective decks, and it definitely presents a problem. True King of All Calamities is able to just shut off monsters, and it's able to use its effect multiple turns. Rongo Bongo is just a standing boss monster that doesn't allow you to summon anything ever. So getting rid of these, once again, is going to remove these pseudo FDKs, and that's a good thing. Simorg, Bird of Divinity.
Bird up.
Now this card is incredibly accessible in decks that really want to turbo out the barrier statue, and if you pair Bird of Divinity with a lot of other cards that protect your barrier statue, it's very difficult to punch through that defense when you're going second, and in a best of one format, you really don't want to allow decks to have that type of setup. Just because there's no real way to side deck against it like you would here in the TCG. So ban Simorg. Union Carrier. This is a primary strategy in Adamancipator, but it's used in a lot of other things. You can realistically play it in anything that ends on a dark monster because you can equip the Dragon Buster Destruction Sword and prevent your opponent from special summoning from the extra deck. So stuff that ends on like Borreload Savage Dragon, you can just splash Union Carrier in. It's also really good in Adamancipator for searching your block dragon, which just creates a ridiculous amount of card advantage. So this definitely needs to go. Imperial Order. It's banned in every other variant of Yu-Gi-Oh! It shouldn't be in this game, ever. Vanity's Emptiness. I think it's definitely one of the most splashable floodgate continuous trap cards out there, just because you can just special summon everything on your turn and then flip it on your opponent's turn. Even though there is a very simple out to it, you have to draw it, and then you also have to deal with the rest of their board. So I think that this is just an annoying card to deal with. Skill Drain. Oh boy, people hate this card. Primarily played in Eldritch, but also in other strategies that aren't as meta, like Phantasm Spiral or whatever that deck is called that utilizes normal monsters. The Skill Drain just presents a huge problem with it being at 3 because it's also incredibly good going second. You can turn off your opponent's board if they just make a bunch of negates. Eldritch does not need this card to do well. It would be perfectly fine playing cards like Goes and Match or Rivalry of Warlords. And those cards are matchup specific and gimmicky, whereas Skill Drain is just like universally broken. Starting off with our limits now, we are going to be hitting Tri-Brigade Fractal. Fractal is one of the best starters in the Tri-Brigade deck, and Tri-Brigade is easily, like not even close, the best deck in Master Duel right now. Fractal sends Kit, Kit sends Nerval, Nerval searches, and you can just do this turn after turn after turn. With Fractal at 1, they can still get their opening combos, but when it comes to follow-up turns, they are going to struggle a little bit more. I think that you could hit a card like Fire Formation Tenki, but I think that Tenki allows a lot of lesser-known Beast Warrior decks to do well, like, Yosenju or Zodiac. So I think Fractal to 1 is a better hit that allows for a more diverse game state. Lyrilusk Recital Starling to 1. This is used in Tri-Brigade Lyrilusk, which is already a really good variant right now. Recital Starling has an incredibly strong loop with itself where you will make your first Recital Starling, search Barrel Canary, and then Barrel Canary will summon itself and another Lyrilusk to make another Recital Starling to get another search, and then you use your 2 Starlings to make F-Zero and then Draco Future. It just generates an extremely strong amount of card advantage and puts a big boss monster on the field. So Starling to 1 definitely will hit that strategy while still giving Lyrilusk a good amount of searching and potential. It's just now they have to choose between, do they want to double search or do they want to make their boss monster? That Grass Looks Greener to 1. This card is so tricky because you don't really know what you're supposed to do with this card in terms of balancing. It's not necessarily that good of a card, but if you are able to resolve it in specific decks like Infernoid or Lightsworn, you can kind of just win the game. So grass definitely presents a problem in that sense. I don't think it needs to be banned outright, but putting it to 1 reduces the odds of some weird FDK coming up with it, and then it also requires certain decks to play more risky cards like Left Arm Offering because they're not going to see grass that consistently. Cursed Eldland to 1. Eldritch is still going to be incredibly strong even without their Imperial Order and their skill drain, but I still think it's important to try to hit this deck. Cursed Eldland to 1 doesn't necessarily destroy Eldritch as a deck, but it forces them to actually play in a way that they have to optimize, and they can't just mindlessly pay 8, feel great every single turn. So I think that Eldland is a pretty good hit. DD Dynamite to 1. A deck so easy that you can actually just create robots to play it for you. This FTK is in a 1-to-1 format really, really, really annoying. It's able to play around hand traps incredibly well, and it's just becoming a spam issue in terms of ladder. It's ruining the game and the enjoyment of it because it's just kind of, can I FTK you? Okay, I'll take my turn. If not, just insta-quit. So, hit DD Dynamite. Please put this card to 1. Thank you. Moving on to the semi-limited list. We have Crossout Designator at 2. Now, it's so tricky as to what you want to do with Crossout Designator and Called by the Grave because they do allow for a more anti-hand trap. You don't just get stopped turn 1. But sometimes if you're playing a ridiculous combo strategy, you need that check. We've seen a lot of really good combo decks arise in the Master Duel meta just because they play 3 Crossout Designator and 2 Called by the Grave, and so they just become immune to Maxi and Ash Blossom in that sense. I think putting it to 2 will still allow for a good anti-hand trap card library, but you're not just going to be able to see it super consistently. ABC Dragon Buster and Totally Awesome to 2. I still don't understand why these cards are at 1. It doesn't make sense to me. ABC and Paleo Frog are both fan favorite decks. People really like playing them, and they're good beginner decks as well. So I think putting them to 2 will not necessarily, open up anything crazy. I don't know why they're at 1, so it's hard for me to balance around something that I don't know about. That'll do it for the semi-limits. Now let's talk about what to take off the list. We're going to be starting with Salamangrate Gazelle. Now, Salamangrate is a very simple deck, and I know a lot of beginners will start with Salamangrate, at least when the deck was at full power. This deck is not that good, if I'm being honest, and Gazelle to 3 doesn't really change much in terms of power. It makes the deck a lot more consistent, but I think putting Gazelle to 3 would create a more healthy meta deck rather than this stupid Rongo Bongo calamities garbage that we've been seeing. Widow Anchor to 3. Sky Striker is in a really weird spot right now because people don't know whether it's better in the TCG or in Master Duel. They kind of struggle with only one copy of Kagari, and they lose a little bit of recursion that way. And so putting Widow Anchor to 3, I think will allow them to have a bit more punching power going first, and then also be able to break boards going second. And so they're not necessarily relying as much on Kagari, and they just have more cards to work with. Orchist Galatea to 3. Orchist has definitely been in a weird spot with Harpor at 1. It kind of creates a more gimmicky strategy, but with Galatea at 1, the deck's follow-ups kind of just die outright. Putting Galatea to 3 will give the pure Orchis strategies a lot more follow-up plays, while at the same time not opening up those crazy, Orchis splash decks that would just run an Orchis engine. And that'll do it for the ban list. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. It helps me out a lot. But that'll do it. I hope that they go absolutely sicko mode on this ban list, because this game is dying very quickly. Go crazy, Konami. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.